What's going on, everybody? We're on another series of the Battle Biz Summit promo, and today I am speaking with Keith Gause with Tideland Consulting, who is an awesome dude. Barely has more tattoos than I do, but he's from the South in Texas, moved to Jacksonville, has an awesome background, everything from the military, law enforcement, similar to my background, but I want to argue he's a little bit smarter than I was from being an Air Force guy, and now he's dealing in some really fancy stuff with his consulting firm. Keith, welcome to the show and the summit in a couple of weeks, brother.
Yeah, dude, Zach, appreciate you having me. And not all of us can be as smart to go to the Air Force, but here we are. We're still friends.
We're working on the friendship at least. We'll get
That's
there,
right.
maybe
It's
potentially.
questionable.
No promises.
I love it.
Man, but now I want to give just a quick rundown of your background. I don't want to ruin the surprise of who you really are, but to jump into overall, you have a family business side of things, where you're coming from an entrepreneurial background. You joined the military in the year 2000 at 18. So obviously in a very hectic time in the military. You got assigned to 20th Spec Ops Command at Fort Walton. Then you moved on into the world of law enforcement in Northwest Jacksonville. Worked that night shift. I remember those days, man. That 6P to 6A nonstop. Great, but also terrible. Obviously, then you moved into the smarter things of life, and you got a wife, got some kids, you got a whole zoo. It sounds like at the
Yeah,
house,
bro.
man.
Jesus, two
And
daughters will do it to you.
yeah, it sounds like you're outnumbered and they're spoiled, but you probably did that to yourself.
Yeah,
And then obviously you have some pretty awesome things with Tideland Consulting. So let's talk a little bit about the family side a little bit. Give us just
for
a
sure.
rundown. What do you think about the military, law enforcement? You moved out of that. Tell us a little bit about the family day to day.
Yeah, so abbreviated is born in Texas and moved to Jacksonville at 2. So got a little Texas blood in me. Still got a bunch of family over there. Not much. Been over here ever since. Military was either, it was one of those things. It was like, you either go to jail or you go to the military. Like pick your poison. Because school just wasn't my thing, man. Sitting in a classroom, listening to people get paid to teach me was terrible. So military it was, jail, at that point I was 6'2", 127 pounds soaking wet, right? Get out of the day-to-day school deal and went to the military. Was bored to death. I literally picked the damn Air Force because they had the shortest basic training. Right. So just being transparent, didn't want to deal with basic very long either.
Yep.
Cause to me, it was like school, another 12 weeks of school. No, let's do the shortest one possible. Halfway through that, I was bored to death. So, they send their guys, their recruiters, their spec ops dudes in there. And, it was a couple PJs and a couple combat control guys and gave their little demo. And I'm like, and at the end, they're like, any of you suckers want to volunteer? And I'm like, dude, if this gets me out of this day-to-day regimen of shit, I am gone. So go do that, pass some tests, do the thing. In 2001, I get stationed in Fort Walton Beach. September 2nd was my report date. So we all know what happened September 11th. So I go in, and that morning we're in chemical warfare refresher, towers hit, pagers go off, shit gets real. We deployed shortly after. I got out in 2005, came home. My dad was an entrepreneur my whole life, owned a plumbing company. So I watched, that's kind of my introduction to entrepreneurship and getting a bloody nose on a weekly basis. So watch him, struggle, finally get it together. I came home thinking I was just going to work for my dad and take the company over. Well, two ego, alpha male, big dudes at the time. I mean, I went in the military at 127. I was come out at 275.
I was
So
like, you
him
don't look
and
like a
I
little
are,
dude now by any
yeah,
means.
him and I battling. I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to work. I missed all the fun and excitement and adrenaline rush of what I did in the military. And I was like, well, the next best thing is law enforcement. So 2005, 2009, I decided that, making $36,800 a year just wasn't cutting it. Was married and had one kid. Well, my wife was pregnant with a kid at that time. drained our bank account. I'd managed to save 20 grand, drained the bank account, went into debt, bought a business name, which was Bounce Around Jack's Party Rentals, and one bounce house, which is, what those kids you blow up in the backyard. We made $1,500 in the first week in a business, and I knew I was onto something, because that's typically like a 2-week paycheck in law enforcement. So committed to, obviously now I got a kid coming, right? Wife was working, kids coming, daycare was $1,000 a week. Like, shit was nuts. So I had to figure it out. So I just continued working midnight shift in law enforcement up in Jacksonville. And then I ran the business, from 09 to 2012, 2011, really, I was able to take it and scale it and do a 7-figure exit. So that was my introduction to entrepreneurship. Back then I didn't know shit, right? I just did. And in the military, right, they just go do it, figure it out. I didn't document anything, but I still feel every single one of those pain points that I went through. So that kind of pushed me into what I do today, which is helping growth-oriented entrepreneurs, physically reduce the time span of pain and what we call the shit sandwich in the military. How quick you going to eat it? Everyone's got to eat it. How fast you going to do it? So by virtue of that, I was able to figure things out. We started Tideland Consulting, which is slowly morphing into GFG Solutions with my business partner, Claudio, down in Orlando, Florida. But long story short, man, is family was super big and supportive. Family was the reason that I got into business, much like probably a lot of us on this call and who will be in this group. And, they've been there through it all, right? I learned from my dad, that part of the family. And then obviously going home at night after a week of being an entrepreneur, getting your face kicked in, the wife and the kids got to support you too. So that part of it is good. Business growth has been good, working with those growth-oriented entrepreneurs and helping them kind of maximize and make things really, really effective and efficient has been good. And it's all just things that I learned firsthand and now have studied for, almost 15 years.
Yeah, man, and it's an impressive story because what I love about it is, I mean, in 3 years, a 7-figure exit's ridiculous, right? You don't really hear of that. It's one thing I love about the veteran space is there's the intrinsic values we get of the discipline, the dedication, the different things of like get up and grind. Like you said, you used to eat the shit sandwich. So
yeah,
you kind of, we have a little bit of intrinsic value that we learn and then apply. And then to make an exit like that, and then to go back into studying finance and investing. And I know on the GFG solution side and what you're doing with Thailand, y'all are doing some really innovative things, man, that I've really been fascinated watching. We were introduced together through Landon and Antonio. They were some guys we've shared podcasts in the past, but they actually flew me down to Orlando. I met Claudio. Man, it's been a couple months now. I guess it was the Arnold Palmer Classic. Y'all hosted it on the 18th green. Y'all are doing some really things. First off, the boys are young. They're young and they're hustling. And to see them be mentored by guys like y'all, right? To me, that's already impressive because they're hustling and they're being given a chance in a lot of ways. And then y'all are bringing partners down, doing different things. What would you say is unique about what you're doing at Tideland and what you're doing at GFG to further biz dev in that capacity? I see it from different ways, but from your perspective, what are y'all doing to really further the brands?
I think the first thing we have to realize is that we wanted to be a solution for business owners that were growth oriented. And we wanted to have an ecosystem of solutions that was unbiased. And we wanted to get away from your traditional, financial planning firms that are IRAs and 401ks and, income and retirement type conversations. And we wanted to work with business owners who knew that they already owned their economy. Your ability in your business as a business owner to operate on 20, 30, 40, 50% margins versus what an investment advisor can get you in the stock market, pale in comparison. So what we offer and what we wanted to build was really a white service boutique firm that was hand in hand with the business owner in the trenches, helping them make these decisions on a daily basis so that they can elevate their growth, right, and eliminate the pain. And so by virtue of that, there's really 4 pillars that we focus on, and it's asset protection. How do you own things? Where do you own things? How do they look? How do you own them? What states? Then we've got risk management, which is, do you have the proper insurances in place? Sure, everyone's got P&C coverage, everyone's got homeowners and general liability, but is it accurate? Is it the right stuff for what you're doing today and in the future? Tax strategy. The IRS, I'm going to dig on some CPA. So anybody that's a CPA in the audience, you do it to yourself, and my bad. They're very reactive, right? Zach, you and I own companies, and I know damn sure that you can't remember what you bought 3 months ago for your office, right? But these guys want to link up in December, January, February. Hey, send me all your stuff for the year, and I'll put it in a box and I'll send it off to the government. Well,
as
the
you can
government's
see,
got
this
this
corner of my desk has receipts sitting on it, right? Guilty.
Expensify, bro. Here's some free knowledge. Download Expensify and start taking pictures of your receipts.
Yeah.
Elimination right there. But in true, in true conversation, like, we wanted to bring something that was proactive to the table, that really got in front of the 8 ball, that had our clients thinking well in advance for what they're doing. And what we realized was that's what business owners wanted too. They wanted that offensive coordinator overseeing the playing field for them so that they could be the best head coach possible. And if you're the head coach and you've got your COO, right, the quarterback, well, both of you at eye level can't see over that 6'7" inside linebacker coming down the pipe. But me, as the guy overseeing your relationships and helping you, keep all of those things fine-tuned, I get to tell you, hey, you got a wide receiver open down the left sideline. You can't see him, but I can. So when we get into that routine of being proactive, we eliminate losses. We help our clients grow. Their bottom line gets elevated, right? They're bringing more profit in. They're paying less taxes. They understand what their end result is going to be. Now we put an exit strategy in line, right? Cash flow. What does it need to be? Are you trying to bring in venture capital money? Are you trying to get private equity money? If so, we got to show certain things. Got to put those in alignment. So having all of those things and really walking with our client to the end result of what their goal is, we've blown up. We've brought a different solution to the table, and people are loving it.
Yeah, man. Everything I've seen and everything I've heard from the work y'all have done has been really, really impressive, man. And it's one of those that I love seeing, not only an organization doing it, but a veteran being smart enough to get into this, because you don't see many veterans playing with money in an intelligent way. And I love that you're bringing that piece to it, and you're bringing that knowledge to Atlanta. We've got an awesome lineup, and you're one of those guys, one of the few guys talking anything finances, anything in that strategic investment piece of it. And I think it's an important piece to highlight, which is why I'm so blessed that you're coming up here. When you were in Atlanta on the stage, what can we expect? What's a tip or two that you might be releasing to the audience, and some value add that you're bringing to it?
Yeah, our goal is always, when we're able to get on stage and talk to some individuals, is to give them something that they can go home with that day, that week, whenever they're heading back to the house, and implement. So for us, there's a lot of low-lying fruit tax strategies for most people in the group that can probably go back, call their CPA. Hey, I know you suck, but here's something that I would love for you to implement since you didn't bring this to my attention. Now, and don't tell them they suck, because chances are they're really good. It's just what they do. But definitely going to get some takeaways, some implementable action items that you can go back, check the boxes on, and get, profit pushed to the bottom line of your business just by doing that.
Man, I love that. And I think that's going to be absolutely invaluable, because we all need to do better about that. We all need those strategies, because I think the real truth of the matter is we've never learned that in entrepreneurship. From the military, we definitely never learned that. They were too busy making me do push-ups and you doing like chair twirls or something, whatever y'all did in the Air Force. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
No, I just, man, but I'm definitely stoked about it. I'm super impressed by everything you're doing, everything y'all are doing. And you're going to be here in the matter of about 3 weeks. So I'm stoked to have you in Atlanta, and stoked to bring all that value. Keith, overall, man, I appreciate you. Look forward to meeting you in a few weeks, my man.
Damn sure. Thank you, buddy.